The third day of February 2025. It is 9 o'clock. We are at the Aquarium Education Center located at 706 Navigation Circle, Rockport, Texas, 78382. And I call this special meeting to order. Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney.
Here.
Commissioner Casterline.
Here.
Commissioner Russo. Here. Commissioner Dutnick.
Here.
Judge Garza.
Here. We've got a full court. At this time, we'll hear citizens be heard. First up, Michael Miller.
I am Mike. Oh, sorry. I am Michael Miller, Vice President of Teal Construction. Commissioners, Judge Garza, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I began to write a detailed accounting of all the events leading us to this day, but I fear the intent of this message may get lost in an overly verbose recitation, so I will attempt to keep it as brief and to the point as possible. When we initially bid on these projects, we provided a savings of about $6 million to the citizens of Rockport and Aransas County when you factor in the City Hall project. As we were that much lower than the next bidder, we were then tasked with identifying additional savings to the county by identifying potential value engineering, as it's referred to in the engineer industry, of which we provided hundreds of thousands in additional savings. We pay taxes here too, and we are willing participants in any efforts to save money without compromising the integrity of the project. Throughout construction, numerous design issues were identified, some minor, some glaringly major. Despite a lack of urgency to resolve these issues on the part of the architect and owner's representative, we remain diligent in all of our efforts to resolve the issues. No matter what the cost for delay, our time is money, and we have absolutely no motivation to prolong a project. The majority of the delays are the direct result of a lack of responsiveness from everybody but Teal Construction. For months, we have been working diligently to resolve the issues with the windows not passing the leak testing. Upon the first failed test, our first course of action was to demand that the manufacturer send a representative down to investigate and observe an installation to identify the issue. They obliged and sent a technician to observe an installation, make recommendations, corrections, etc. I insisted that he remain until the last feet of caulk had been applied. Upon completion, he said, "Yep, it's good." We tested the window again, and that same window failed. At this point, we made the decision to invest in not only one, but two expert building envelope consultants to review the drawings and installations to provide guidance. The second expert identified a critical failure in the design in which water was allowed to breach the mortar joints and infiltrate the window system through screw holes in the brick mold. The expert provided a simple and easy fix, which we promptly installed and tested. It passed. Just as soon as we ecstatically shared what we considered to be great news, all interested parties immediately retreated to their corners to cover their own rear ends. Then on Friday, I received a call from a reporter with KRIS 6 News requesting an interview. I said, "For what?" They said, "It appears the county intends to terminate your courthouse contract for cause. A good team effort requires constant communication, of which this project is dearly lacked. I should not be made aware that we are being terminated for cause by a news reporter. This clearly illustrates the communication problem that has existed with this project from the beginning. We have hundreds of satisfied clients all over the state of Texas and beyond. Never in our 78-year history have we been terminated for cause on a project, especially in a community where we live, work, play, and pay taxes. Some of you would have preferred this building never been built. That's perfectly fine. And on a personal level, I don't completely disagree. But why not just terminate for convenience before tens of millions of taxpayer dollars were spent? Now you're deliberating firing us at the 11th hour and going out for bids for someone else to try to finish the building. Have you considered the unintended consequences of this? First of all, no one is going to want to touch this project with a 10-foot pole. I've had clients call me before asking me to complete and assume liability for someone else's work. I have politely declined every time, as no amount of money would entice me to roll those dice. If you can find a contractor willing to complete the project, they will expect to be compensated handsomely for the risks they are being asked to assume. Even then, there will be warranty issues on all materials and equipment installed on the building today, which is essentially complete. Atop that, you will face an extremely costly legal challenge by our attorneys and experts, who are among the most respected in the state. We will prevail and will receive due compensation, but not before both sides expend millions of taxpayer dollars in litigation. The cost of fighting this in court will dwarf what we are justly due. In April of last year, I had a conversation in Judge Garza's office. I requested a public workshop where the commission could call all interested parties into the principal's office to discuss who the real culprit is for the delays and changes this project has incurred. At the conclusion of that meeting, Judge Garza told me, and I'm paraphrasing, "Michael, I believe Teal is owed some money, but I'm not paying it." Construction projects of this size, type, and complexity are not easy to execute. It requires all parties working together. These projects are the work of human hands, and perfection is a lofty goal. I'm not here to tell you that it is all one party or another's fault, but I can assure you that it will be proved in court that the lion's share of the delays and expense are due to factors outside of our control.
Time's out, time's out.
I yield my time.
All right, we got Justin McComb.
Morning, Justin McComb, Director of South Texas Operations for Teal Construction. I'm going to pick up where Michael left off. I'm not here to tell you that this is all one party or another's fault, but I can assure you that this will be proved in court and that the lion's share of the delays and expenses are due to factors outside of our control. It is unacceptable that it has taken as long as 528 days for the owner and architect to approve a change request. When we were working diligently to resolve the window issue, the first report was shared with the design team. It took 44 days to get any kind of response. In that time frame, we had already hired an additional expert, identified the problem, fixed and tested it for confirmation. Our time is money, our money is the citizens' money, and we are the citizens. Nobody can afford for this project to drag on the way that it has. It is long past time for somebody to take a leadership position and make a decision necessary for us to complete our work. If we have convinced you at this point that the termination for cause is the absolute worst solution, which it is, we ask that you allow us to finish. Release us to proceed with the window solution, and in 2 weeks' time, we can provide a completion schedule that will cost the taxpayers infinitely less dollars than the nuclear option before you here today. Thank you.
John Murray.
Thank you all for this time. John Murray, Route 13 Kingfisher here in Rockport. You mentioned in your agenda memo, accepting an offer from Teal as an alternative to termination. We haven't been contacted or had a meeting about that, so we're prepared to offer the following. If the county would approve our long outstanding elevator change order, county to approve Teal's window solution. Upon approval, windows and interiors can be completed in 6 to 8 weeks. Allow Teal to complete all jail standards and fire suppression work. Work will be completed for cost, including associated general conditions with no additional markup for fee. Schedule and cost for this work can be provided within 2 weeks from authorization. County and Teal will start good faith negotiations to resolve all outstanding claims and change orders, some of which have been out here for over a year now. The cost and time to litigate this will far outweigh what it will take to settle all claims. And as a citizen, that concerns me tremendously. We will save the county the cost and time required to prepare construction documents, solicit bids, and negotiate contracts. It will also solve the problems obtaining a certificate of occupancy, warranty issues, and finding anyone willing to take on the job. We are ready, willing, and able to complete our scope of work. No other contractor can do it faster or cheaper than we can. Beyond that, we are Rockport, and we're eager to deliver the quality project that we and the citizens of Aransas County deserve. Those that agree with us, I ask that you please stand and show your support. And I thank you all for being here. Thank you again. Commissioners, Judge, I have a list here of what we know to be outstanding items needed to complete the job so it can be utilized for its intended use. It's a relatively short list. It's all on one page. There's 3 sections here. This top section is work that needs to be done by us and our subcontractors. This middle section are items of work that need some action, either by you or your design team. And this bottom section is work that's been taken out of our contract that needs to be done to complete so that we can close out the job and get a C of O. So if I may, I'm going to hand these copies out to y'all. Home printer, so they're not all that good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kayla Alston?
Hi, thank you. Good morning, commissioners. My name is Michaela Alston and I reside at 403 Trailer Boulevard. I am writing to express my concerns regarding the agenda item concerning the potential termination of the contract with Teal. My husband and I have built high-end homes in Aransas County for the past 17 years, giving me substantial familiarity with construction, particularly in contractual and insurance matters. Given this experience, I want to highlight several critical issues I believe should be considered before making a decision. First, the completion changes. The likelihood of another contractor stepping in to complete a project that is already 90% finished is extremely low, particularly given the negative visibility and public accusations surrounding both the contractor and the structure itself. Finding a company willing to assume this risk will be exceedingly difficult, if not impossible. Second is the builder's risk insurance. The current builder's risk policy, which covers the courthouse, remains with the existing contractor. If this contract is terminated, Aransas County will not be able to secure a new policy, nor will any incoming contractor be able to obtain coverage unless the structure has a certificate of occupancy. This presents a significant risk, especially with hurricane season approaching. Remember, if this is canceled now, you're going to sit idle for at least 6 months trying to figure this out. And now you have no insurance entering hurricane season. Number 3, financial and legal implications. If the contract is terminated, these challenges will result in further project delays, leaving the building stagnant, most likely uninsured. Much like the city's unresolved drainage issues, the courthouse will remain unfinished, leading to increasing costs, potential legal disputes, and continued taxpayer burdens due to the ongoing rental expenses for all alternate facilities. As a taxpayer, I am deeply frustrated by the inefficiency and waste of public funds on this project. I strongly urge the county to move forward with the current contractor to complete the courthouse, mitigate financial and legal risks, and avoid further unnecessary expenditures. Thank you.
Thank you. C. Fisher?
Morning. I'm a local attorney that just seems to have cases all over the states. I haven't been around.
Address, Steve.
Huh?
Steve, your address.
Oh, 1021 South Water Street, number 125, Rockport. Today's my wife's birthday, and she wanted to, get a list of things, places to go, and I could tell you this isn't on the list. So, I'm here. There's some questions I have, and I'd like to see answers. I could talk about the legal aspects, not so much for the past, but there may be new contracts, and I certainly don't want to see some of that stuff in there. But I'd like to know, one of the things I'd like to know, the initial cost was 23,600,000 or so, and there's a clause in there that after 487 days, that there's $1,000 a day late fee. Those days would have expired in summer of 2023. So by the end of this month, there'll be like $1 million, in those fees. Who's responsible for that? That's one of the questions. I want to know, and I'm no expert in construction. There's been like 17 change orders. Some of them have multiple changes. Some of them are rescinded. When that 23,600,000 was contracted for, did that include the third floor where we need a jury panel room, or was that changed later? It's just rather than tell you stuff, I really just have a lot of questions. But as far as the contract goes, there's probably going to be more contracts, and I would hope to outline some mistakes and hope that you don't make them again, or that one of you guys was very forthright, called me and said our mistake was trusting. And nobody's perfect, but we don't want to make those mistakes again. one of those things in that contract is, expensive materials are not to be used because we're trying to save money. And think about that. That gives anybody an excuse. Well, the windows aren't that good. Well, you guys said you didn't want expensive materials. You don't want something like that in a contract, Another thing you don't want is it should be developed in a warm and inviting way. Well, who's to decide that? You don't want lawyers deciding these things. And, I appreciate Mr. Miller because, when he's asked a question, he answers it. I don't appreciate the architect that much because I wrote a very nice letter. I think I was working with on behalf of the newspaper too, and then I wrote a personal one. And we should get some answers. And if his attorney is saying, don't answer anything, well, we need to know that too. So there's a lot I'd like to know. I think we paid him $1,398,000 to start, and there was another 100,000, then there was another 47,000, and I don't think I got it all. So these are the things I'm interested in. I've done leases in way over 80 counties, and I've looked at the courthouse he did in Fort Bend. And I think it's functional, but it's certainly not warm and inviting. And a courthouse, there's so many pretty courthouses around the state where even counties much smaller than us are really proud. Look at our courthouse. I don't think this is going to meet that criteria. And there's other things in that contract too. There was a checkbox, arbitration, or this will be settled in court. Why on all this was it checked that this will be settled in court? Arbitration could take 4 or 5 months. It's not near as expensive as district court cases. They're going to go on for years. There's going to be expert witnesses. There's going to be attorneys from out of town. That cost is going to be huge. And they're so slow. I have cases from 2020 that still haven't come close to being a jury trial here. So I just wonder what the thought was. And then there's other things that just are irrelevant, shouldn't be in a contract. There's something about the contractors and the architect and the parties cannot contract or do any business with Iran. Well, what's that doing there? I dislike Iran as much as anybody else, but the best payback we could give them is to send all those people over there and let them do their defense installations and stuff. So I don't know. It just shouldn't be, and it's probably mandated by state. So that's some of the things that I would like to hear. I would like to find out.
Time's up.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Jennifer Wood. Is she online? All right, so she did right. She's for real construction. I'd imagine it's supposed to be teal construction, being able to complete the courthouse and being paid the extra cost that will be necessary to do that. That's Jennifer Wood. 601 West Market. John and Verna Ashcroft. They online? Okay, they did write in. This project has taken way too long, or I'm sorry, this project has taken too long already and our county needs this space. Thank you. John and Verna Ashcroft, 300 Sencio. Larry Beavers.
Commissioners,
Morning, sir.
thank you. Thank you for the time to speak to you all.
Sorry, I didn't hear your name.
Larry Beavers. My name is Larry Beavers. I'm a property owner at
Your address, sir. Your address.
41 Lazy Lane,
Thank you.
Lamar, Rockport, since 2009. So reason why I'm here is I'm a retired commercial general contractor of the Houston area for 35 years. My corporation worked in the design build construction industry, building specialty buildings for the oil and gas industries and related businesses. In the beginning of 2020, I was invited to join the board of directors of the Rockport Center for the Arts to assist in building a new campus due to Hurricane Harvey. I would like to thank the Aransas County Commissioners for all the help and assistance on the project. Thank you. I've been in the construction industry all my life. I donated my construction management skills and knowledge as a owner's building development coordinator to the board of directors. I had the pleasure of working with a superior design team of Richter Architects and Teal Construction Company from the beginning to the completion of the $9 million project completed in December of 2022. Total completed project, $9,017,519.87. We all worked extremely hard together on the project with quick solutions and related proposals to keep the project moving forward, which we accomplished. I asked the Aransas County Commissioners and related teams to work with the current in-place design team and construction team with one goal to achieve: a letter of occupancy soon. The hope to accomplish this task in a timely manner to open these buildings for Aransas County, Texas. Thank you again for the time I spent speaking. Larry Beavers.
Thank you, Larry. Patrick McKelvey.
Morning, my name is Patrick McKelvey. I live at 317 Stanley Road, Salem Street, Rockport, Texas. I'm a resident, landowner, and taxpayer. My fiance is a small business owner in this town and county. Till a year ago, I was a substitute teacher at Rockport Fulton High School, where my daughter graduated last May, and my very proud newborn grandson will go to those schools as well. I have a vested interest in what happens in this county and municipality going forward for the next 25 years. People far more eloquent than me have already spoken and will speak about how the people of this town and county voted against this construction, not once, but twice. No, some of you may not have been on the board at that time. Some of you indeed were part of the decision to move forward with this construction. Those of you that are newly elected, if memory serves, ran on a promise of fiscal responsibility. This is a math problem that we, the taxpayers, and by your duty positions, you are supposed to have in good faith in accordance with your constituents' wishes. Fortunately, me being a teacher, this is where this comes into play. I taught English, math, and history at Rockport Fulton High School. If you vote to break contract with Teal, three things are guaranteed to happen. Number one, there will be litigation. Teal will claim they acted in good faith to meet their contractual requirements. They made an honest attempt to execute the design in place and communicated those flaws that they discovered along the way. And we didn't make payment for over a year, yet they continued to move forward with construction. They will be paid eventually what we've agreed to pay them for the work completed, or they won't. Either way, the cost of litigation will be considerable and yet another tag to the residents of this county to pick up their increased tax burden. So we'll have litigation costs and probably costs we owe Teal no matter what. Number two, should we break contract with Teal, we will lose the warranty for their work. It's been so eloquently stated already. We now face the cost of finding and vetting a new design consultant, plans review, and the search and vetting of another construction company to agree to come in and take over a radioactive job. The design flaws will need to be addressed, new plans implemented, and changes will result in additional costs to the project. We ask them to warranty work that isn't there. No construction company will do that. We'll lose the certificate of occupancy from Teal, have the additional cost of application and implementation of a new certificate of occupancy, and they will expect a premium for the work that they do agree to do. And this will have what, 8, 10, 12, 18 months to an already extended timeline? Again, it's going to cost the taxpayers here money. I've taught some of the children and people in this room and their grandchildren. This is basic math and basic English. It's about communication and doing the numbers. If we break contract with Teal, number three, if we break contract with Teal, all the above items listed, they're going to take time. That time translates into additional costs and rental spaces that we presently pay for, offices, storage, moving costs. We need to sit down, get over ourselves, find a solution, and move forward. And we need to do that in an economically sound way to take care of the people in this room. Whether they voted for it or against it isn't the issue. The issue is getting the problem solved. And if we try to do that through litigation, Judge, you know better than anybody what this is going to cost us. I live here. There's no need to have one people in this town. My daughter and my grandson are going to grow up here. Don't stick them with the town.
Thank you, sir. Guy Griggs. Morning.
I agree. It's 402 West Main Street, Rockport, Texas. Oh, I retired here in about 2008, but I had homes here before that. So I'm a long time resident here and taxpayer and concerned citizen. My background is similar to Mr. Beaver's. I'm a registered professional engineer who was involved in construction, development, negotiated, bid, all kinds of ways. But, you know, I'm just going to kind of sum this up in a very short sentence here, because all these fellows have definitely given y'all some good thoughts, and I agree with. In my years of handling many, many contracts, there's only one good reason that I ever came up with to consider terminating a contractor. And that's number one, he was financially unable to finish the job. If he's financially able to finish the job, and then number two, willing to finish the job, which I think Teal Construction has exhibited both of those things very clearly to you guys here today. I just see no reason to even, why this would be a item that y'all would even want to consider doing, terminating their contract. And that's my opinion. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Griggs. Got Michaela again. Jennifer Wood. Becky Mathis.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Becky Jackson Mathis, and I reside at 308 Palmetto Avenue. I just have a short speech. I've been a resident in Rockport for a long time. My family has been a part of the Rockport community for over 100 years. I have seen this town grow from a small fishing village when my grandfather, former Aransas County Judge Roy Jackson, sold seafood on the waterfront to the beautiful designated city we are so proud of today. The new centerpiece of our community has come a long way, and we are excited to see it completed. When I heard the court was considering firing Teal, I was shocked. Why? The building is almost done and is a beautiful building to be proud of. I have heard that they have had an extremely hard time getting the building built. I have heard that the Houston architect left out jail doors, jury room, insulation, and many other major details needed for the function of the courthouse. We are punishing the contractor who happens to be a Rockport native. I have met Mr. John Murray, and I have been in many of his buildings. They do quality work. How much is it going to cost us taxpayers if you decide to fire them? How much longer will you have to hold court in an aquarium? Judge Garza, I ask that you and the commissioners allow Teal Construction to complete their work and quit wasting our time as tax dollars. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Joe Rikers.
Right there, I'm at 610 East Market Street. I feel like the party crasher because I'm going to change the subject matter. But I want to address you real quick about the appraisal district. I'm a Texas property tax arbitrator. And so as an arbitration judge, I deal with every county in Texas. When people go beyond the appraisal review board to arbitration, I'm one of the judges. There's about 100 in the whole state. In 2024, the comptroller changed to a completely electronic system. It's called the property tax arbitration system. The county, the taxpayer or their agent, the arbitrator, and the comptroller have a screen and an access to that. And so that's implemented statewide. What I've noticed as a citizen, and concerned for my own county, it doesn't seem like somebody's on the other end of that in our appraisal district. Automatically, it gives a determination and also who's paying the fee. Well, when our county needs to pay my fee, I don't get paid. I have to carry them a hand invoice. And I don't know why somebody doesn't receive it and pay it automatically. Every other county does that. I've also noticed that when I make a determination and the value is entered electronically, weeks, months go by, and when I look at that property, it hasn't been changed at the district level. So it leads me to believe that nobody is on the other end of that P-test system at the district. I'm not sure, but it seems that way. Like I said, that things come to me after they've been to the ARB, and some of the evidence that the parties provide clearly demonstrate to me that the ARB is lacking in our district, because there are specific instances where the law, the tax code says shall, must, or may. Well, shall and must are just about the same, but there's no discretion. And I see repetitively that our ARB does not follow the shall and the must. They sometimes follow the may. And so it's hard for the county to support the case when the ARB lets things like that slide. I would suggest additional training and maybe more stringent credentials for our ARB board. Recently, I noticed there was a change. Mr. Presley said he was acting chief, and I give him credit. He's been asking me questions from a judiciary and a civil standpoint. I'm not going to disclose confidential arbitration matters, but he's been asking me some procedural issues and some best practices, and I've been offering assistance. He let me know that we have a board. I don't know what it's called, but the appraisal district board of directors or something like that. And so what came to mind for me was it's like an inspector general, an independent body for oversight. I would encourage you to leave that in place. I recently found out Mr. Hutt and Ms. Quattlebaum were part of that. They have been asking questions. I've been in this role for 10 years. Nobody's ever asked me a thing. Suddenly these players are asking questions and seem like they're interested in making us better. And so I know 4 out of the 5 of you personally, you know where to find me. I'm up here because I'm willing to help. I think I have some of the answers that may be useful as we go forward in our appraisal district. Some of the continuity is a concern, when you have 6 condominiums in the same building that are the same exact thing, and the county says they use a block appraisal and every single one of them has a different price. Something broke down in the system. I'm not sure how that happens. I know they haven't been inside, and without information on the small changes on inside, should be the same price. Now, yeah, there could be some differences for the inside, like the quality, but again, the county hasn't been in there. And so without somebody disclosing that, I don't see how there's any fairness in 6 same exact units that are connected, having 6 different prices. I've never seen that in all the counties in Texas through arbitration. It makes my job a little more difficult. So I think we can do better at that. I have some remedies that might be useful. I'm here as a citizen. I love my community. I want our government to be fair and efficient and effective. So
Thank you, Mr. Records.
If you need help, you know where to find me.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Jeff Hutt?
Jeff Hutt, 2201 Prairie Road. So I really feel like we shouldn't even be here. The citizens voted this down, but that's in the past. We're here now. Just whatever decision y'all make, and I want to mirror, and first of all, the gentleman who spoke from the high school, I'm upset that he's not still a teacher. I mean, I really appreciated what he said. Just whatever decision y'all make, please keep in mind that we need to get in this courthouse. We need not to spend any more money. Financially, I know that some of that we are facing as a county in terms of other lawsuits, in terms of other issues that we have with insurance, with RPA, contractors, that we have been digging ourselves a deep hole. I know that when the judge took over, we were running a $3 million budget deficit. There was another $1 million that was unaccounted for because there was a contract for the jail that we weren't making, but yet we were still keeping it in like the budget. And all of these things are compounded, and folks have spoken today. And this is the first time I've heard people come to you as a body of citizens and not say, I've lived in Rockport for so many years. I love Rockport. I love the children. This is the first time that I've ever heard folks come to the Commissioner's Court and lobby y'all to be financially responsible. So I would like to just echo that. Whatever decision made, I'm not an expert, I don't know about this. But whatever decision y'all make, please make sure that it's financially responsible, that you get us in this courthouse as soon as we can, and that we can get this nightmare behind us. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna move on to, was that everybody? Anybody online that signed up? Okay. Item number 1.
I move to approve authorizing the county auditor to pay outstanding invoices, DLF Texas Incorporated LCR Transport LLC with prior engineering approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Commissioners have any questions?
I do. So I understand, I believe, that in the process, GLO, while these grants have been distributed to us and other folks many years, has changed the process for reporting payroll.
Yes, ma'am. They have required, they used to require it to be substantially complete and they would reimburse us. Now they're requiring everything to be 100% compliant with their payroll for subcontractors, contractors and stuff.
But you're putting it into effect retroactively.
Yes.
Is the problem.
Yes, Judge Garza has reached out to the head of GLO, Heather LeBron, to get a ruling on this. But our stance on it is the ones that are here and requested, and I've asked Kayla Burgess with GrantWorks, and she's online if y'all have any questions for them. But my understanding is, especially with LCR, the reason that this is being held up is for payrolls that were back in the very beginning, and they have no way to get a hold of those people and get signatures. And so we were already reimbursed for all of those, even though now they're saying now we have to go back and we can't pay these because those weren't compliant. So these are compliant, all of these invoices. So what we are asking is that engineers have approved them. We have the as-built, we have the completion, certificate of completion on both of them that we're asking for retainage on. That we go ahead and pay them.
But I thought GLO reimbursed us after we paid.
Yes, ma'am, they do. The ones that they reimbursed us for were paid probably 2 years ago. They were at the very beginning of the project.
So then did we pay those to the contractors?
Oh, yes, we had already paid those. These are October, November, and December invoices that now, because of the non-compliance back 2 or 3 years ago, they're saying we can't get 100% compliance, so now we can't pay these.
They were compliant at first and then they changed yeah,
They changed the rules and now they're not compliant. And like I
but
said,
they've already been paid.
So she may be able to answer a little bit better on it.
Because my concern is going forward, if we pay these and we suspect or we think GLO may not reimburse us the full amounts, is the county going to be out the money for the difference?
And honestly, yes, we will be, but they've already completed all this work. This is not something that's getting paid in advance. We have a contract with these contractors to do this work. They've done it. And we owe the bills. If they walk off the job, then they're gonna turn around, we're gonna have lawsuits, we're gonna have attorney's fees, and we still owe these bills.
And who is Heather LaGrone? Because I thought Don Buckingham was the
He is
head.
the head, the chairman, but Heather is the director under him.
It's a lady.
Don.
Don is a lady.
Yes,
And Jackie, isn't it accurate that all of these things were previously approved by the GLO representative that was in charge at that time? And somebody's news come along and actually went back into all the payments and had a different opinion?
I think there's the new GLO administration or grant manager that we have has been a lot stricter. And yes, she has gone back and re-audited things that were already approved. And it's a call. It's just it's an opinion from one manager to another. But GLO has changed their rules and has required 100% compliance. On the LCR invoices, we're talking about probably $12,000. That is all that they are not totally compliant on, and they give employees advances and they did not have the proper paperwork to do payroll withholding. And so that's the problem. And these are contract or workers, subcontract workers that worked for them 3 years ago. They have no idea where they are or how to get a hold of them. Most granting authorities will let you put a letter to file, some explanation of why we're not getting that right now, but we are asking to pay the vendors.
So a change in, we're not deficient on anything that we've done. We haven't done anything wrong. It's just, this is the results of administrative change.
Yes.
So these total, and I didn't use my calculator, but just looking at around 2 million.
It's 1.8 million, it's 1,875,726.37.
Okay.
For all of these.
So of that, what can we anticipate the GLO will actually reimburse us towards these?
100% is what we're looking for you on.
So we're really just doing basically administrative, just.
It's all, I mean, all of our GLO contracts right now are 100% reimbursement. So we would be reimbursed. We need the call from Heather LaGrone, and I know the judge is waiting on hers to get back with her. She was doing whatever.
She's working on it.
She's working on it.
Is the expectation, is there an expectation that we will get the 100% reimbursement?
I feel like we will. Everything is compliant right now. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kayla. As far as I know, everything is compliant now. The one that is not compliant was 3 years ago. And that's the issue. And it's because they changed rules midstream.
I understand that.
And we didn't have anything to do with them changing the rules. It's just
No, sir.
they changed them to let us know.
Well, they don't
That's
necessarily let you
right.
know, but it's once you start going and submitting, then they go, oh, no, you need to do this now.
So there are no problems with current pay applications that are being processed. Correct?
Oh, they will not process these because of the prior.
Okay, then
These
we,
are fine. I mean, if there was not the prior problem with compliance, then these would be paid.
Okay.
There's not an issue.
So then my concern is, there's $1.8 million here. Do we believe the county's gonna get that, or is GLO going to hold on to that because of the problems in the past?
We're waiting for
That's what we're working
Mr.
on.
Young to give us that call. But as far as, I mean, I truly believe we'll get it. I think it's unreasonable to think that somebody could go back 3 years and change the rules and expect you to go back. I've never worked with anybody that required that. They've always let you put a letter to file, explain what happened and go on. Even FEMA, when I worked with FEMA, if there was an issue, they would do something like that.
Especially for $12,000 worth of payroll.
Yes, and this is Kayla with GrantWorks. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Awesome. So the GLO does get these federal funds from HUD, and they have a vested interest in spending these funds. It looks really bad on the GLO when they have to deobligate funds, meaning they're not able to reimburse the counties or the cities that they're working with. So right now, the issue that we are facing is if we go to monitoring, the GLO's MQA team or their quality assurance team will see these payrolls from 3 to even 1 year ago, and they'll say, hey, these don't meet these new standards that we have. Why did you pay? We don't know right now if the GLO will have any kind of consequence with that other than saying, just don't pay them again, or you have to have 100% compliance. And when we say 100% compliance, we're also talking about things like formatting. So if they wrote a sentence on the payroll and there's a misspelling in the sentence, they're saying that's not compliant. The whole payroll is out of compliance. Don't process it. So it's even little things like that from 3 years ago that we're having to go back and try and locate these subcontractors and these construction workers. And quite frankly, that's very difficult to do. It's pretty much been impossible. We've been working on this for months now. But we are hoping that these pay apps here could be processed because the contractors did do the work. And although I'm not an attorney, I would say rely on your attorney for confirmation of this. My knowledge of contract law says that the county still will owe this money no matter what the GLO says. And this is across multiple project sites, although right now I believe these pay apps on your agenda today is for 2 different contractors. And particularly LCR Total Transport, they still have work to do on a project site. And it's been very difficult for them because they've basically had to float, just over $1.1 million. And they still have to finish a project site for Aransas County. The goal for the GLO, they want the projects finished and they want to disperse as much of the grant funds as possible. Otherwise, they get less and less funds in each preceding grant round from HUD. They have a vested interest and they are wanting to work with the county, but I do also understand that we're still waiting for Ms. Legrone to have a final say-so of what direction to move forward. But to the purpose of asking for these pay apps to be processed is 1, the county owes the money regardless to the contractors, and 2, it is a very good faith effort because you have LCR Total Transport still working on another open project site. That project site, Southwest Aransas, is not finished.
As DLF is also still working also, so they're both still working on projects.
Correct. And it may be seen as in bad faith to not pay them for the work that they have been doing for months, especially when they still have a lot of work to do.
I think we're ready to vote regardless.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Castelline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
I,
Commissioner Dupnick,
Aye.
Judge Garza.
Aye, passes unanimous. All right, item number 2. Should we go to closed session before can we do that? Go out of order? I think it's appropriate. We're gonna go into closed session. I'm sorry, but y'all are gonna have to get out. But please stay.
You have to motion and vote.
What's that?
You have to
I
motion.
know, well, not yet, but we're gonna go to closed session. I know there's no place outside to hang out, enjoy the water, I don't know, but please come back. Go ahead,
You have to do.
I move, we go into closed session.
You have to read the motion.
Oh, my goodness. I'll read it. Can you hear me? Let's. Let us get through this motion and then we could get out. I move we convey into closed session pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Open Meetings Act to consult with counsel and receive legal advice about pending or contemplated litigation, a settlement offer or other attorney-client privilege matters with which the duty of the attorney to the government body under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with the Open Meetings Act regarding the downtown anchor project, including but not limited to the county's contractual rights and potential legal ramifications of corrective action as allowed under the county's contract with Teal Construction Company.
Second.
Got a motion and a second.
Commissioner Cheney.
Aye.
Commissioner Castellan.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Commissioner Dupnick. Judge Garza.
Hi, okay.
Move to convene into open session.
Second.
Got a motion and a second.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Castleline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Commissioner Dupnick,
Aye.
Judge Garza.
All right, it's 10:58. We're back in open session. And I move to discuss taking action as allowed under the county, under the county's contract with Teal Construction Company, accepting the architect's certification for cause. And this is just discussion. Do I have a second?
Thanks.
All right, so this opens the floor for discussion. But before, I wanted to say something. I guess I should have told you I was gonna say this. Anyway, I want to start by thank you all for being here. It's a good crowd here. I want to start by acknowledging the concerns that many of you have expressed about the courthouse project and Teal Construction. I understand that there are frustrations on all sides. Frustrations with delays, with the process, and with the impact that this has on our community. Let me be clear, the goal of this Commissioner Court has always been to get this courthouse completed in a way that is fiscally responsible and meets the needs of Aransas County. We're not here to punish anybody. There's nothing personal. Before I took office, I took a couple of tours of the art center and I was thoroughly impressed with the housekeeping, and I was pretty excited about the courthouse. John, we worked together on a playground project before. There's no personalities in here whatsoever. And I'm, not making these decisions lightly. Teal Construction has made their case publicly, and I appreciate their willingness to engage with the community. However, we must evaluate what is the best interest of the county, both in terms of cost and ensuring that the final product is built to the proper standards and that the contract is followed. There's no question that terminating a contract at this stage of construction carries risks and potential costs. That is why we are carefully considering all available options before making any decisions. If there is a path forward that allows us to complete this project efficiently and at the lowest possible cost to the taxpayers, I am open to that conversation. At the end of the day, my responsibility is to the people of Aransas County to ensure that this courthouse is completed correctly, that we avoid unnecessary legal and financial burdens, and that we uphold our duty as stewards of public funds. I appreciate your passion and involvement, and I encourage all of us to focus on solutions that move this project forward in the best way possible for our county. Mark, do you want to present? Where's Adele? Can he present this? Or he could address the court, right?
Mark.
On what you gave us.
Or did you want to go, Adele? I'm sorry.
Can I have your copy? I gave you all my copies.
You can use this.
I have to. Adele, did you want to go first? Yes.
Hi, Mark Williams with Broadus and Associates. We're the program managers for Aransas County, and I reside in 1000 Station Street in Port Aransas, Texas. Have been for 4 years. I'd like to start by saying that the project started off in high hopes. Everybody thought we were going to move forward fast and get the project done on time. However, I have a list that I'd like to go over briefly. The list herein is a list of non-compliant work, delays, incomplete work, and during the course of the project, it was noted that Teal did not sufficiently provide supervision and quality control measures to their subcontractors, resulting in numerous non-compliant work, as highlighted in multiple architect of record inspections. The contractor has been paid $450,000 to provide professional supervision, and yet there are numerous examples of non-compliant work, improper supervision, and unsatisfactory craftsmanship. To date, monies held for incomplete work, non-compliant work, and retainage are in the amount of $1,521,000 $493.37. While the list that I've got here below is not all inclusive, it is addressing the most egregious delays and non-compliant work on the contractor's part. Number one, non-compliant work, the truss anchors that were supplied to install the trusses to the concrete slab were not the proper anchors. Number two, non-compliant work causing delay. The standing seam roof had to be removed in order to address some cap nails that were used to attach the underlying waterproofing membrane that were not submitted in the submittal process. And as a final recourse, the underlayment manufacturer suggested that they pull off the standing seam roof that had been installed and then use strips of the same underlayment, which is a self-adhering peel and stick type material, and lay it over all the cap nails. So that work had to be done over before any more standing seam roof could be applied. Number three, the foundation and brick ledge era. Originally, the foundation was poured and built. They began to lay the shellcrete, which is the base of the big stone that runs around the base of the building. And quickly, we realized with the help of the architect of record that the air gap between the backside of the stone and the concrete was way narrower than it should have been. Come to find out, the brick ledge was not constructed at the depth it was supposed to be. So we had to stop work and drill into the wall all the way around the building and insert dowels. They were epoxied into the concrete, and then a grid of dowels were wired to that grid. And then formwork set up, and we had to pour an additional 2 inches plus or minus all the way around the building to add on that foundation to support the shellcrete. And then the shellcrete that was laid had to be removed because we had some delays in the shell, or we had some issues with the shellcrete. First off, there was no mock-up provided. The architect of record requested a mock-up of the shellcrete and all of its components and associated appurtenances to be mocked up so we could review the work and approve its construction before it moved forward. However, this mock-up was never provided. And the existing work was non-compliant. Therefore, as I said before, we had to remove several areas of shellcrete to allow, first off, the amendment to the foundation, and then the proper placement of flashing and weeps at the level that was dictated by the architect of record. Another unacceptable portion of that work was inconsistent joint dimensions were observed throughout. It was also observed that the shellcrete was not set in a full bed of mortar, which is required in the contract documents and the specifications. In other words, when you lay a piece of stone, it has to be set in a full bed of mortar. And the reason for that is several reasons. Adherence, also to prevent water intrusion from gathering in those voids. And if we have a freeze-thaw cycle, frost will put, or frozen water will push mortar and crack brick. So if there's an area that water can collect, we certainly don't want that under the shellcrete. So that's another reason that full bed of mortar was important. Substantial damage was observed at the corners and edges of some of these blocks. These blocks weighed in the neighborhood of 400 pounds apiece. And they had to be loaded with a forklift using straps, and then shims were set on the foundation. These shims were the depth of a mortar joint, and then they were supposed to be covered with mortar, then the stone set. So it was an arduous process, but in the process, some of these stones were chipped and broken. And this non-compliant work required rework and was completed on or about 4/6. So we lost about a month of time taking that stone back off and put back on. And we still have that ongoing non-compliant mortar joint bed occurring in other locations, namely the City Hall project. The non-compliant work regarding the window installation shop drawings indicated a 3/8-inch sealant and backer rod joint at seal and 5/8 backer rod and sealant joint at the jambs and head. As an example of poor quality, some joints exceeded 1 inch. And some joints were tight against the rough opening, so you couldn't get any sealant backer rod in there at all. The contractor was advised in an Architect's report dated 7/19 that the sealant and backer rod at the window perimeter must be installed at both the front and back of each window unit per shop drawings to achieve a weathertight installation. The subseal extension must extend from brick to brick, which it wasn't. The reviewed installation terminated at the edge of the window. So we were short with our window seal, expensive piece of material that was inserted into a tongue and groove joint. So the window had a groove like this. This window seal came in and fit in that groove. And the only way to get it out is to remove the window, pull it out. So we came up with a solution, the design team, and we all came with a solution to try to cut those seals off and basically pop rivet a new seal set in sealant to accommodate that error that was caused by the contractor. The reviewed installation terminated, as I said, at the window frame, which resulted in the gap between the window and the window and the brick, and sometimes in the neighborhood of 1.5 to 2 inches. So you could see down behind the stone or the brick, you could see a void down on the wall. So that seal is supposed to shed water out, and it was wide open. So it took a long time to get that resolved. Galvanized seal angles that supported the windows were intended to be the width of the window. However, on the job site, we observed this while they were installing them, and some of those ledge angles that we call extended sometimes 8 to 12 inches past the window. So that meant that any incoming water that seeps into bricks, and everybody knows that brick and mortar seep water, that's the nature of the beast. That's why we put weeps and waterproofing behind the brick and weeps and mortar net to allow water to escape out the base of the wall. It's common practice all over the nation. Everybody does it. And that's to prevent containing moisture in your wall. So these galvanized seal angles actually capture some of the water that comes from above and channel water toward or away from the window jamb seal intersection, which is where we had the problems when we did our window test, our AMA 502 window pressure test. We had issues capturing water at that intersection. Not to say that that was the problem, but that certainly doesn't help the solution. By the way, those ledge angles were never cut. The brick was installed, and we live with that today. Teal was advised to cut these off appropriately. The angles will block the drainage of the cavity and the transition between brick and cast stone. Stainless steel flashing was not installed in some locations. Most locations it was installed, but in some locations, and we have photographs of this, it was not installed, and the window was installed, so it's impossible to get in there to install that flashing unless you pull the window out. Sealant install was sloppy, not properly tooled, and per the manufacturer's instructions, sealant must be tooled When wet, to achieve proper adhesion and coverage, the contractor was advised to remove sealant and reinstall as required. They also used a sealant that was not approved in the submittal process, so we're dealing with that now. Large gaps exist between the subseal and end dams and rough openings in the jams due to considerable variation in rough openings. By the way, a lot of this has not been corrected. Some of it has, some of it's not been corrected. It's been covered up. And we have EFCO installation instructions indicated that these end dams should have been sealed at the jam condition and window unit. The installed sealant and backer rod as required to close the gaps. Much of this work was not corrected and consequently resulted in several window test failures. Windows finally passed the test on 1/22/25. It's just recently, with a solution that was never vetted by the architect of record and the final authority. Only 2 windows were confirmed to pass this AMA 502 test, and we have multiple windows that have not been tested. It's a concern that the solution is a long-term solution or a short-term solution just to pass the test, leaving the county to discover leaks several years from now as a latent defect. We also have non-conforming work in the way of non-galvanized steel throughout the course of the project. Exterior steel that was to be used in an exterior situation that was not conditioned space was specified and designed to be galvanized. We did not get that. We got middle finish steel. In some cases, it was painted and it was erected before anything was done about it. So we had to come back and advise the contractor how to solve that problem. But right now we have a zinc rich primer on it, or in some cases we have peel and stick, which is not the same as galvanization. So those will be susceptible areas to rust in the future. Non-compliant brickwork.
My understanding is some of those have rusted. Is that not true?
Yeah, we have rust in some locations, but it's surface rust at this point.
Interior.
Well, usually on the exterior wall, embedded inside the wall where it's non-conditioned space, that's the area that's of great concern. The brickwork, we have a lot of this brickwork was laid, and the owner and the design team met on 6/25 to discuss architect's initial analysis of the dimensions that provided by Teal. Teal was advised on 7/3/24. This information, though incomplete, gave the design team enough information to understand that a considerable amount of the installed brick was out of tolerance up to a full brick course. In other words, the east side of the building has, for example, 120 brick courses. That's not the right number. The west side of the building has 121 brick courses. So you have.
So those are rows of bricks.
Rows of bricks that are, so to compensate, they made some adjustments in some of the door jambs and in various places to conceal the problem with those off course.
Would you explain out of tolerance, please, for those who are not construction related?
Right. So brick is normally laid with a 3-inch bed joint. So they pull a string that's level and you lay to that string and then you move on up to the next courses. And that string is used as a datum line all the way around the building so that you get the same elevation of brick all the way around the building. And you do that gradually as you build your brick up. Apparently, I'm not sure how it happened, but we ended up with more bricks on the west side than we do on the east side. And consequently, that domino effect pushed the EPIS, which is the material above the brick, out of whack.
Sorry.
And it was the EPIS had to be a certain depth because there's a diamond pattern of tile in it. So that had to remain a constant dimension. Well, when that went up, then the brackets began where the space was reduced for the bracketry. So the brackets were varied in size all the way around the building. So you have some brackets that are 8 inches and some that are 11 and a half. So there's a variation of that goes around the building. We also had we had a exterior lighting for the signage. There was no pathway provided from the circuit shown on the electrical drawings. There was a circuit that was shown to provide power to the signage to be provided through the concrete structure. The circuit is clearly shown on sheet 1 EPA 2.01 and noted to use the circuit for signage lighting and consultant manufacturer for voltage and requirements. What happened is no conduit was installed and the contractor wanted a change order to install power to that sign. And so the architect came up with an alternate solution for them. And then the contractor hit us up with a change order to provide the answer to that alternate solution. And in closing, therefore, it is our opinion that the contractors failed to meet their contractual obligations to correct the work that is not in accordance with the requirements of the contract document and has repeatedly failed to carry out the work in accordance with the contract documents. AI 201-217, section 2.4, owner's right to stop the work. And recognizing that the contractor has neglected to carry out the work in accordance with these contract documents, owner may pursue remedies to correct deficiencies. Per AIA document A201 2017, section 2.5, owner's right to carry out the work, including termination for cause. AIA document A201 2017, section 14.2.2. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Adela, did you want to speak?
Morning, Commissioners and Judge Garza. We've heard a lot of information today, and my clarification that I believe is necessary is that we are, what's in front of you today for approval are two very specific things. One of those is accepting the letter from the architect where he states there is sufficient cause to fire Teal. The other before you today is the opportunity for you to instruct the county attorney's office to work on your behalf in whatever decision you choose to make. I want to be clear. The law states that a commissioner's court of a county may appoint an agent. If the commissioner's court of a county decides to appoint an agent, they have to actually write out, whether that's an order or a contract, they have to identify what it is that an agent is and is not allowed to do. If a commissioner's court appoints an agent and identifies what that agent is allowed to do on the commissioner's court's behalf, the effect is that that agent can bind the county in a contract. Action, inaction, dollars, cents, that is what an agent is allowed to do. This contract has appointed an agent. It is not the county judge. It was not John Strothman, whose role has now been filled by El Morales. That agent is the architect. And it even mentions him by name. In the supplementary conditions, it expands the definition of owner. The owner is Aransas County as operated by its commissioner's court. But it also includes your construction manager agent, Broadus. So there are decisions that can be made by these two agents without having to come in front of the commissioner's court. In the scope of a construction contract, that's fine. There are people who are involved in this contract every single day, and it's work that a simple answer from an architect can solve the problem, or a simple direction from Broadus can solve the problem. And either way, the courthouse gets built. So I just want to explain that you have an agent, you have two. What is in front of you today is whether or not to accept the architect's letter certifying that there is cause to fire Teal. There is not a requirement that you fire Teal. There is not a requirement that that we sue Teal or anybody else. The only thing that's in front of you on that matter is whether or not to accept the architect's letter. And I want you to understand, under the law, when the architect, any architect, but when an architect writes a letter, it is legally significant. Their stamp, their seal, their certification to practice in the state of Texas, and their liability insurance is all on the line once they put something in writing. So for an architect to put something in writing, it has legal significance. Our contract addresses some of that. So 12.2.2. If the architect comes to review work, and if that architect determines it to be non-compliant, what happens and who pays? It's in the contract, and it says that it gets fixed right away by Teal and that Teal bears the costs. That is a contract term. That contract took a while to write. At least weeks. There's back and forth, there's documentation. There were meetings between the county attorney's office. It was Ms. Osteen at the time. There were meetings with Broadus and with Teal and the architect, and everybody put in their inputs. Those were bargained for terms. In those bargained for terms, there's an explanation. It says, here's what we need for the courthouse. We need it efficiently. Time is of the essence. Also, if all things work together, Teal has a right to receive payment and we have a duty to pay it. We have the right to receive a courthouse that's built according to the design specifications, and they have a duty to build it. The contract also discusses what happens when we don't get along. Because everybody wants to believe there's a honeymoon period, but anybody who's been married for any length of time will know that that eventually wears off. And so this is a contract that addresses that. We have gone into some of those areas, and your agents today have presented or written you letters that said, we had problems and we don't believe they've been addressed sufficiently. That is what they're telling you today, and that is it. They are not requiring you to fire Teal. They're not requiring you to sue. There's a lot of creativity afforded under our contract. Hypothetically, we could pursue some of the things that were presented by Teal's officers today. We, being the county and who the commissioners court collectively, hypothetically, we could pursue that. I firmly believe that every person on this project wants to avoid litigation. And I think that's fair. Personally, I care about getting a courthouse that is safe and on time and free of any problems. Nothing's perfect, but that's what I would prefer. And I'm sure that you would prefer that we can move in. We don't have to go to court to do that. So I want you to understand there are options. I am more than willing, if you direct me to write you a brief or a letter that says, here are some of your options underneath the contract. I'm willing to explain some of those a little bit further. Hypothetically, the commissioners court could hold a workshop and invite the architect, the engineer, and Teal, or I'm sorry, the architect, Teal, and Broadus to the table and say, if it's between the four of us, how do we get out of this without litigation? Here's what we want. Are you willing to do that? That is an option. So if you so choose and you would like more time to deliberate on what to do next, that is available to you. That is not up for vote today. The only thing up for vote today is whether or not you want to accept this letter from your architect. If we were to proceed with firing Teal, that letter is required. That's it. We don't have to proceed with firing Teal. We can work it out. We can do our best to work it out. I believe you'll recall that in September, you authorized the county attorney's office to engage in alternative dispute resolution with Teal. And on December 23rd, you voted and said, we're done. Because we couldn't come to a meeting of the minds. My only thing for you today is whether or not you want to accept that letter from the architect. I would recommend it as a civil attorney for the county. But at this time, I cannot recommend filing a claim on Teal's bond, filing a claim on their insurance, or recommending whether or not to fire them. But if you want to have another meeting on that, I'm happy to write those recommendations down for you, identify what some of your options are, and allow you to make the best decision that you can on behalf of the citizen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adela. I do have questions. I guess I'll ask Ellen, Mark. Where are we at with inspections? Have we passed the MEPs? Michael, maybe you can answer.
I'll defer to Justin.
Justin.
The inspections we've called in have passed. The city of Rockport typically does all their inspections at one time. And the last time they were in the building was when we were trying for temporary occupancy, but before that option came off the table. So the final inspections will be until the end of the project.
So we haven't passed any MEPs yet.
Then you'll all those at the end.
Okay. She's still here. What change order is outstanding for 528 days?
That was part of change request number 17, I believe, is part of change order numbers 5.
What do you-
Remember, it's change requests 244 days, 200 days, 183 days. They were all provided to commission in the binders that were presented last January. There's if you go through, there's several tabs, and there's an accounting of all the change requests, what they were for, and how many days it got to be approved.
Right, but you said 528 days for a change order, so there's not a change order that is pending for 528 days.
That one's
You're adding it
resolved. That one was actually resolved last year. But if you go back into those binders that were provided last year, it's got a lot of those various change orders, and many of them were change requests that were lumped together into individual change orders.
Y'all haven't received payment in over a year? Somebody had mentioned that. We just,
Received $0 in general conditions since.
oh, general conditions, okay.
Yeah, it's important for the commission to understand. I think it gets lost a lot in the public too. Your contract with us for $23 million or whatever the final number is for all the materials, all the subcontractors. Teal Construction's portion of it is very small, right? Because we're not an electrician, we're not a carpenter, we're not a bricklayer. You know, it's our responsibility to manage the project, and we get a small percentage fee, 2%, 2 to 3%, you know, on a hard bid project of this size, type, and complexity. So our margins are very slim, but our actual, you know, physical contribution to the project itself is also very small.
Right, but when you make a statement like, or when someone makes a statement like you haven't received payment in over a year, it makes it sound like we're not paying our bills, but we're paying our pay apps. I mean, we just approved one for 200,000 last month.
Got another one for Monday.
Yeah, it's just,
They don't include any general conditions, which is.
I'm just saying, no payment, we're paying our bills, but general conditions you haven't received.
Yeah, a lot of that stems back to the difference between a change order and a change directive, right? The change directives are basically either the owner's representative or the architect don't agree with the amount of time that it takes to, you know, for that work to be done, and allow for the additional days within the contract schedule for us to complete that work. So the can just kind of keeps getting kicked down the road because we can't come to a resolution on what is a reasonable amount of days for that particular portion of work to be done.
I understand, but we are paying our bills, we're paying our pay apps. I wanted to trust Steve. You said there's a part in the contract. I'm getting looks from it about non-expensive materials, and you said those windows weren't cheap windows. I just want to throw that out there. The EPCO windows those are pretty expensive windows, right, Mike?
Yes, I made the recommendation to the county and not to you, Judge, because you weren't seated yet, but I made a recommendation to the commission at that time to consider looking at a different window system that was more standard. That there were some opportunities to give a similar look with the divided lights in the windows using a Conair product. That was squashed pretty quickly by Larry Ersick from Architectus, because he was concerned about the historical look of the building, and how that would impact the overall aesthetic.
All right. That's all I had. Commissioner, do you have anything?
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. Any questions, commissioners?
I don't have anything, but I would move that we accept the architect's certification of cause for termination, but not act on it at this time.
I'll second that.
Would you like to add to it? Right.
I would also like us to set up a workshop to get all parties involved in trying to come up with a resolution to let Teal finish the job.
Are those two separate motions?
Same motion.
All in one motion.
I'll say it.
All right. Does that give you?
Does it need to be two motions?
No, sir. Just out of curiosity, do you need anything from the county attorney's office to help you prepare for that workshop? Or
To be determined.
No, that's what we do.
I offered to write you a letter addressing some of these concerns. I certainly don't have to do that. If you would like me to present that at the workshop as well, I can alternatively, or you can vote not to need it at all.
Want to add that on? I'd be glad to add it on the motion.
Yeah.
I actually would like to have that as two separate motions. One motion to accept the letter, and then a second motion to clarify whatever the intent is, to have a public workshop, perhaps with input from the county attorney's
That
office.
motion be to accept the letter but not act on it at this time.
Right, that was my motion, and I can change that into to two motions. I move to accept the letter from the architects, but to not act on it this time.
I'll second that.
All right. That's a motion on the floor.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Castleline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Nay,
Commissioner Dupnick.
We're accepting, not acting, just accepting, they're not.
Just accepting the letter.
Okay. Yes.
Judge Garza.
Aye. So 4-1 on accepting the letter.
Then I would move for us to have a workshop or whatever type of appropriate meeting with all parties involved, Teal, us, architects, project managers, whoever else we need to try to resolve the issues to let Teal get finished. I would like for it to happen quickly. I don't think we've wasted enough time.
I'll second that motion.
That's a motion, a second on that. Mike, how close are y'all to completion?
So in the document that was presented to you, there's some tentative timelines on there. Obviously, if we're given the go-ahead to proceed with the fix of our windows, we can have the windows buttoned up and stuff in about 6 to 8 weeks, I believe it says in the letter. As far as if we are tasked with completing the additional work, all the rework of all the millwork for the judges' chambers, the wet pipe to dry pipe fire sprinkler systems for the county clerk's file room, all of those things, we still don't know because we haven't been given any direction on that. It was expressed to us that we would not be completing that work, but that is very critical to the obtaining the certificate. Hard words to say. So that needs to be part of the conversation, because it is our opinion that it is in the county's best interest. Personally, I don't want to do the work, but as far as all of y'all's, all the warranties, all the things that we talked about, you know, with regards to termination and all of those issues remain. If, let's say, okay, we finish our base scope of work, but somebody comes in and does additional work on the building prior to receipt of the certificate of occupancy, which the fire marshal has already expressed to everybody that he will not issue until everything is done. So if you agree to, you know, some semblance of what's been presented to you today, then, you know, it's going to require Justin a couple of weeks to sit down with the schedules, get the bids, you know, get all of that stuff rolling, and then we can give you a completion schedule at that time. But I can assure you that that path will be the absolute quickest way to getting your building and at the least amount of money, because we've already offered in good faith to do that free of charge. Just pay us for our costs, and then we won't charge you any markup.
Does that include all the issues that has brought to the table?
So the issues that brought us about the table, John, you wanted to share some of your notes that you took.
Every one of these issues needs to be addressed in a forum with all of you, and they've been talked about in the past, and a lot of it's already been resolved. But just for example, the issue about cap nails, we wore that out 2 years ago. Cap nails are standard procedure in the industry to hold the material down in place until you get roof on top of it. There was no issue with any galvanic reaction or anything else. But we said, okay, if you don't like it, we'll go in there and we'll cover it all up and redo it. So that was dealt with. So I don't even know why it's still on the list. The truss fasteners was a delegated design to the truss manufacturer. We had a discrepancy on whether we believed that was exposed to the elements. I heard Mark say conditioned space. I may be wrong, but it's my understanding of what I remember is it wasn't conditioned space, it was exposed to the elements. All these conditions that we're talking about that they're saying we're not, they're deficient, were in enclosed areas, not out there outside. So that was the discrepancy on that. They were all in place, but we discussed it. We came up with a coding. There's a spec in the book somewhere that you use a certain coding and lose the galvanizing. That's what we did, corrected it. And furthermore, today, all those fasteners are covered up with closed cell insulation. Correct me if I say anything wrong now, but they're closed up with closed cell insulation. No weather can get to it anyway. That's resolved. The brick ledge. The mason read the dimension wrong on the plans. Our fault, his fault, we dealt with it, we handled it, fixed it. There was about a month delay in that, don't disagree with that, that's on us. The mock-ups are done in place, that's typical in the industry, the normal thing in the industry, do mock-ups in parts. We did do a mock-up in the yard by the trailer, but most of these big mock-ups have to be done in place. And that's what happened. The stone not set in mortar bed was typical for those big heavy stones, as they want to set them with shims where they can get them adjusted, get them correct, get the joints right. Mark's right, they did what's called to be set in a mortar bed, no problem, call it, pointed out, they pulled them out, redid it, that's fixed. That's not a problem anymore, so it shouldn't be a deficiency at this time. The whole issue about the windows, that's a whole nother topic in itself. There's a whole lot to talk about there, look at and understand, but bottom line is today we got a solution to it. And we asked that solution to accept it so we can move forward. The sub-seal issue, I have to go back to the glazing contractor, but I believe we did take corrective actions to satisfy what the architect and everybody wanted. So that shouldn't be on the list. I don't know anything up these ledge angles. That's the first I've heard about that. Justin or somebody may be able to address it, but again, we've tested these windows. They pass, it works. So I don't know why that is an issue. Get back to flashing. That flashing is a discussion to be had in this whole window situation. We've had 2 experts tell us that had that flashing been there, it wouldn't have worked anyway. It didn't serve any purpose. Again, you talk about galvanized steel, all that steel that we say was not exposed to the elements, but it was encapsulated. We went back and found methods to seal that steel up, to cover it, and waterproof it, protect it, put barriers on it so that it was adequate and as good as galvanized. So we did that. I don't know why that's still on the list. That was done, everybody agreed to it, it was accepted, and that's what we did. The brick. The brick is a long conversation, and everybody's got a piece of that pie. Everybody's got a hand in it. And it's an issue that architect didn't want to see cuts of brick under the window sills at the back of the building. So to change that going forward, they had to change the way they coursed the brick. That through coming off east side of the building, the south side of the building, I think I got my slides correct. Then it jumped up one brick in the back of the building, back where the dumpster,
Let me help you there.
help me with that. So
The northeast corner of the building is where we provide, or our masons provided a mock-up for the masonry itself. The masonry was reviewed, they provided comments, the mock-up was approved. So whenever you course the brick out on that corner, that sets the level, like Mark explained in his comments, that sets the level for the entire building, right? So they continue down to the west, on the north side of the building. And architects came out for a field observation. And they noticed that there were slivers of brick underneath the windows themselves. So one of the slivers.
Architects is who?
Architects is the exterior architect that works under PGAL. PGAL holds the primary architectural contract. The slivers of brick were observed, and they said they gave us a memo to correct coursing to eliminate slivers of brick for the remainder of the building. And so the only way that that could be achieved without ripping the entire corner of the building off of was the masons who, I had to stand out there and Commissioner Russo joined me staring at the brick, trying to find how they adjusted this coursing to make another brick basically appear out of nowhere. But basically what happened was if you go to the back side of the building, there's a doorway. And on one side of the doorway, there's like, I can't remember the numbers, but let's just call it, 31 bricks. And then on the other side of the doorway, they worked in a 32nd brick. And the way they achieved that was, there's a 5/8 mortar joint standard on the building. And so they just made that down, if you consider that 5/8 and you've got hundreds of bricks stacked all the way up, one minor 1/8 inch correction over 100 bricks can allow you to fit another brick. And so that's the way they address the coursing comment from the exterior building guys. So we worked our way around, the slivers of brick were gone, everything was good. We started doing all of the ethos work above it. Get through that, everything's fine. Do the tile work above that, get through that, everything's fine. It was not discovered until we started putting the wood trim board at the very top. And so all of this has resulted in, on one side, you've got an 11-inch thick bracket. On the other side, on the other side of the building, you've got an 8-inch thick bracket. And the trim board that goes around everything on one side is 10 inches, and on the other side, it's 8 inches, or 11 inches and 8 inches. From the ground, mind you, this is 40 feet in the air. Okay, these are we're talking about inches here, and I stood out on the ground with Commissioner Russo and we stared at it, and at the time whenever we were observing it, there was still some the blue waterproofing visible through, so you could barely kind of see, oh yeah, well maybe that is a little bit skinnier over there than it is over there. Bottom line is the architect, after reviewing that, rejected that work. And whenever a rejection of that magnitude comes about, it I mean, you've got to tear all the brick and all the stucco and all the windows and everything out, the entire exterior of the building and start over. And we've spoken to our attorneys about this, there's case law, it's called, economic waste. Yeah, economic waste. And we've got a good leg to stand on because we had an approved mock-up. We proceeded with the coursing as was approved. And then at some point they decided, no, we don't like those slivers of brick, but just your coursing. And then that caused everything in the building to be thrown off by a couple inches. I could take anybody in this room out there and say, point to me where this is occurring, and nobody can find it. So that's the kind of thing where we're balling this up. We're saying, Teal has, provided sufficient evidence that they are incapable of, providing a quality project for the specifications. That's the kind of things we're talking about. Extremely minuscule. Let's work through it. Let's go have the workshop. Let's sit down. Let's figure out, okay, yes, you're having to accept something that's a couple inches off. We were told to do something, and as a result, these are the results. But yeah, if you want us to give you, $20,000 back, what is it worth to you? Let's talk, let's negotiate. We need somebody that can come with the authority to negotiate, because we don't even know who to negotiate with. Is it the county attorney? Is it Judge Garza? Is it Mark Williams? Is it Paul Burnett? I mean, nobody's in charge. So let us know who to negotiate with. Let's all sit down. Let's put everything out on the table. I presented Judge Garza in April and said, we need to have a workshop on this now before it gets out of hand, before we get to where we're at today. And I provided a spreadsheet of all the outstanding issues, and it had columns. It said Teal Construction, EJF, Frost, Architects, County. Because there's things that you've asked us to do that are above and beyond the scope, things that are above and beyond what the architectural team can anticipate, above and beyond anything. So some of this is y'all's, extras that you guys want. So let's just go through them all and say, okay, I'm 25% responsible for this, or I'm 100% responsible for that. The architect's, 40% responsible for this. Go through it all, hash it out, because what's causing the toxicity on the project at this point is everybody is retreating to their corners and trying to cover their rear ends. We're over here basically in the dark, jumping up and down, trying to figure out this on our own. We all need to be working together, because otherwise we're going to continue to bind this up, foul it up, and the only person that's going to win are the experts and the attorneys. And the big losers are going to be the citizens of Aransas County. So I hope you accept this invitation. I'm disappointed that y'all accepted the architect's letter, but I would like to move forward and resolve this as quickly as possible and give you a building that you can be proud of.
How does my week look next week?
It's, I'd have to get back.
Oh, okay.
We voted on.
Do they need to get numbers ready? I mean, I think we get numbers.
Yeah,
on
I want to call a workshop next week, so there's no decision making, but we could discuss.
We've not voted on.
I know,
Right, we
I know,
need to
we're
vote
still-
on the second motion.
We're still discussing. We'll do the workshop, but bring numbers. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah, any numbers. I mean, you need to get with them and see how quick they can have the numbers ready, I think, before you set the date.
By numbers, you mean amounts of claims and days and?
The things you're talking about, the fire system,
For the scope that was taken away.
The jail, the cell doors.
We don't have any drawings.
So dollar amounts.
The drawings haven't been provided for us to price.
But we need to know, the other things, you got the cell doors, you got all those things that are still lacking.
The things that are in our wheelhouse, we've purchased the cell doors and the hardware, we've been instructed installing.
Right.
Those things we
The
can.
right ones. Correct. You have the right ones on.
No, they've been purchased, they've not been shipped, but we've been told the install and the swap out of the existing frames is not in our contract. So all we're gonna do is bring the doors, leave them in the building and be done. That's, we've been instructed to do that.
That's strange things about contracts. I remember when we figured out it was the wrong door. And I guess we didn't ask y'all in writing to stop y'all didn't. And I remember the judge and I were in there multiple times. Y'all knew the door was wrong and y'all just kept going with it. Maybe if you have a contract, that's what you have to do for something. So
Commissioner Cashline, Justin McComb recommended at the time that this was discovered that we stop the job and take a pause, because all of these issues that we're dealing with right now, or a majority of them, are as a result of trying to pivot and work our way through that on the fly. So we've been at the forefront warning the commission that this needs to be worked through because it's going to cause problems down the road. But anything surrounding anything that we have information on, we can get those numbers to you in time to complete. But there's certain things that we do not have drawings on, and we haven't put in front of any of our subcontractors for price.
All right, so we got that.
we need to vote on the motion.
Yeah, unless y'all got any more questions about.
I think it's important, just one last thing, if I may, Judge. I think it's important to understand that the longer it takes, that's been an issue from the beginning, the longer it takes to resolve a change request. And I understand, there's been times where I've chewed on Justin, hey, you needed to really twist on that electrician a little bit more to get a better price. But time is of the essence, right? So whenever something gets rejected and kicked back to us, I mean, we have evidence of change requests that we've submitted that have been approved based on a date that said, hey, this has to be approved by that time. And the scheduled completion time had already elapsed by the time the change request was approved. So, just this constant kicking it around and thinking about it, and then we have to keep moving forward. Because as you heard Steve Fisher say in his comments, there's liquidated damages on this project. And if we're not done by a certain date, it's $1,000 a day. So we have to keep moving forward. And, that's why we need to work, because here we are, we're in a room full of people who are angry and who are demanding answers. So this workshop is going to be very, very successful. And I think it's going to be a good exercise. And I think we're going to be able to talk a lot of these things out, because one of our frustrations is we don't have a place at the podium to say our side. And I know that, some of you may have disagreed with my social media post last night, but I think it's important that our voice be heard.
My problem is we don't have a place to meet to discuss this because it's taken so long.
Absolutely.
Sure, but 4 weeks.
And,
We want to get it to you as quickly as possible.
I know you do.
I'm not one for pointing fingers or anything like that, but there's a lot of situations that have gone on here that should not have taken this long. And I'm an electrician. I'm not a builder.
Well, when you're an electrician, have you ever been in a situation where somebody damaged your work? So what I explained it to the judge is I said, the point of this workshop, and I explained this back last week. Point of this workshop is to drag everybody into the principal's office. Because I deal with subcontractor disputes all the time. Oh, this guy, I have my ceiling tiles in, and then the fire sprinkler guy came in and he damaged my tiles, and now you want me to replace those tiles and everything else. And then I talked to the sprinkler guy and he said,
That's why you're here.
exactly.
To do that.
But what I well, Commissioner Cheney, respectfully, if I can finish. Whenever I get into one of those disputes, the only way I ever get it resolved is by bringing them both into my office and having them look at me in the eye and have them look at each other in the eye and hash it out. Because it's real easy to go in your corner or whisper in somebody's ear and say, oh, this is all their fault, or this is all this person's fault. I said in my speech, I'm not here to say that this is all somebody else's fault.
Okay, I think we've come to an impasse, and I think that you all will have a workshop sometime next week to hash out the rest of this, so I would request that you guys go ahead and vote.
We still need to vote.
Yeah. Yeah, still need to vote
on.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Cashline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo, Commissioner Dupnick, Judge Garza.
Aye, we'll be having a workshop next week, but I have.
Maybe it can be some, maybe it'll have to be after regular hours, if you say you don't have any space.
Depends on if I can find a room, that's what I meant.
The city manager.
Our space.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
And if Teal's ready, because if you're not ready, I'm not gonna call a workshop, and depending, I don't know what I'm doing next week, so. I do have a third motion. I do have a third motion, that's to direct the county attorney's office to provide a legal opinion and write a statement for the commissioner's court.
Second.
All right. That's what I did. Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Castellane,
Aye.
did we get a second?
Yes.
Okay, so to write an opinion or.
A legal opinion and a statement on behalf of the commissioner's court
Regarding,
regarding the issue, the construction issue.
Just one quick question on that. Do we really need to do that before we have the workshop? I mean, what's the logistically, should we get the opinion as a result of the workshop? Or should we have the workshop after the opinion?
No, what do you think, Amanda? Well, you're not gonna have it ready by the workshop, right?
If it's towards the end of next week, we have something for you. It depends on if you want that information for yourself and the community to have before the workshop. That would
well,
be
it could go
helpful.
out with the agenda when it's posted.
Could
right?
come out with the agenda.
Just letting you know, the information that's in the contract, what options that you have available to you. Anything that we have to provide to you that's happened such as far in the last couple of years, that would be beneficial. Both as background for yourself and the community going forward into it.
Maybe a list of the obligations of both parties.
Right, we can have that ready for you.
Thank you.
But just a legal opinion, because we can come up with our own letter.
Right, some factual information, just basic facts.
Okay.
They don't have to look for it.
Okay, so the motion is to have county attorney do a legal opinion with a statement of construction and contract information. Is that correct? Okay. Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Castellane,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
After you said legal opinion, what did you say? Statement of
statement
instruction?
about construction issues and contract information.
Aye.
And Commissioner Dupnick.
Aye.
And Judge Garza.
Aye. Passes. All right.
Number two.
We're adjourned.
We're not doing number two.
Oh, is there a number two?
We did not do number two.
Oh, that was number two.
Oh, that was number two.
Yeah.
And there was a second to the motion.
Is that-
Change that motion.
We changed the motion. That's it.
So now we vote. Oh.
To adjourn.
Commissioner Cheney. Commissioner Castellane.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Commissioner Dupnick. Judge Garza.
Aye.
You motion that.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
You motioned adjournment.
I
did.
Second.
Jack.
I'll be the